In 1960, I spent a month of the summer doing survey work on the Gornergletscher glacier for the Scott Polar Research Institute of Cambridge. At the time, this glacier above Zermatt in Switzerland was one of the longest on the European mainland. My 1960 photos show how climate change has damaged this beautiful glacier already. Our climb up to the glacier started in the picturesque town of Zermatt. This street scene, photographed in 1960, had barely changed when I went back 63 years later in 2023. The town, unlike the glacier, remained unspoilt in 2023. The famous Gornergletscher mountain railway, seen here as it was in 1960, took us up to Rotenboden at 2,500 metres altitude, and nearby is the Riffelsee with its Matterhorn reflection, here deserted in 1960, before it became a mass tourism photo opportunity. A few hundred metres away was the beautiful Gornergletscher, with the Monte Rosa on the skyline, above the roof of the mountain hut that was the base camp for our research work. And here's our 1960 team at the hut. The hut itself was still there when I went back in 2023, but it was now derelict, as it's too far above the glacier surface now to be of any use. Even though it was the middle of summer, we were at 2,500 metres altitude and it snowed quite a bit. But we had work to do, whatever the weather. So this is the view looking towards the upper part of the Gornergletscher, to the left of the Monte Rosa, and the Grenz glacier to the right of the Monte Rosa. But 63 years later, in 2023, the upper Gorner is separated from the lower glacier by a massive slope of rock and scree. Swinging right, here's the view across the valley in 1960, showing the glacier surface along the bottom of the photo. And this is the same view in 2023. The glacier completely disappeared. Here's one of our surveyors at work looking across the Gornergletscher with the Matterhorn in the distance as well. Much of the time we were working down on the glacier, on the surface, here looking towards the Matterhorn downstream, and here looking upstream towards the upper glacier. And in 1960 we could walk from here up into the glacier accumulation zone, past what at the time was a small rocky slope near the Monte Rosa, just visible on the right of this photo. But 63 years later, in 2023, just a remnant of the glacier remains on the floor of the valley. Our 1960 survey work took us high up into the upper glacier accumulation zone, way past the iconic Gornergletscher Hotel at 3,100 metres altitude, the highest point on the Gornergletscher mountain railway. We pitched our tents in this pristine wilderness, and it felt a million miles from what has since become a mass tourism hotspot at the Gornergletscher Hotel. But the Riffelsee still reflected the Matterhorn when I stood there again in 2023, on the same spot where I was photographed in 1960, 63 years earlier, which was a magical and unforgettable experience.